transport. The mighty Charles can cover diverse roles such as parachuting, airload drops, one-level flying, and even search and rescue. Of course, the most rewarding part of our career is flying all over the world to support the many New Zealand servicemen and women who are deployed away from home. Scotty, the captain, will now be manoeuvring the aircraft at over 300 knots, 300 foot above the ground. As the herd comes in from stage left, you'll see the aircraft bank 60 degrees and a turn away from us. As the herd comes back in now, it will turn away, giving a good view of the underside of the aircraft, climbing away, which will be the completion of New Zealand's display. Ladies and gentlemen, from our display crew, myself and all of...
Approaching the crowd, the pilots today, Captain Pete Phillips and Flying Officer Lindsay James, will retract the gear to conduct a belly up pass. Here we go.
Up past the grandstands of the Gold Pass holders, Learjet turns out to the west. Learjet
medium attack helicopter is equivalent to If you're unfortunate enough to see this end of a pair of Tigers for real, then the day is about to get worse. Though the aircraft are close to you today for display purposes, they normally wouldn't be, preferring to employ their weapons at long range with accuracy. The really special thing about this aircraft is its handling or agility, which is truly amazing. The aircraft will now be performing a range of standard manoeuvres they might use in combat. We'll now slow down and hover over the runway and show some of the the characteristics of flight controls that enable them to operate in a wide range of environmental conditions. The turning manoeuvres you'll see will show the authority of its flight controls and tail rotor, and the sideways flight will show its ability to operate in quite strong winds from the side and from the rear. Flying sideways now, on the nose, that cannon. See this? It's going to be a bad day. Out to the left, 150 knots. Thank you all and good time.
Emergency flight.
It takes a lot of skill to do this. Guy Burke's filling in today in Judy Pay's harbour. Judy Pay operates out of Tyre with her collection of aircraft. Scotty has already joined on the lead, and Steve Deeth is chasing to rejoin the three ship as we speak.
So BD, Pete Clements with us, one of the founding members of the Southern Knights. His ringmaster role to you today. BD, what does that entail?
Ben, you can imagine the size of this air show. It's the 5th largest air show in the world. It is the largest air show in the Southern Hemisphere. And with the amount of flying that we have over a week, you can imagine how much it takes to get approvals from the Civil Aviation and Safety Authority. Systems within air services. There's Guy Burke saying goodbye while he rejoins. Folks on the right, the Southern Knights running in for a pitch and break to land. With 7 hours of flying here today, you can imagine the organisation, everything runs literally to the minute. If we don't get that right, it just turns into a Burke Street on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock. The traffic just...
Joint Strike Fighter.
Six and a half G in that crosswind turn there. He's now on the downwind leg of a normal circuit, if you will. He'll look to configure the aircraft here and basically overshoot the runway at low altitude.
It's the first time here in Australia for the Joint Strike Fighter. How did you get here?
Yeah, it was quite the journey actually. We started just over a week and a half ago, and the aircraft left Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, Arizona, bound for Hawaii. It's about a 7.5 hour leg, and we were supported, outstandingly supported by the Australian KC-30 and C-17. KC-30 refueled the two F-35s on that leg. We did about 7 refueling brackets, and as I said, hopped into Hawaii for the night. From there, over to Guam, similar profile the next day, and then from Guam into Ambly last Monday. Jacko now overshooting from his approach. Produces 43,000 pounds of thrust, which gets the aircraft along. The two classic Hornets, number 2 to deal with that Hornet threat. We may see that Hawk 127 again. Before the hostile forces have a chance to dig in around Avalon, we're dispatching the air assets of the Australian Defence Force to deal with this threat. Ladies and gentlemen,
The aircraft you will see to your right or to the north will be two pairs of helicopters from Australian Army Aviation. The ones you can see to your northwest and then to the east is Turning around to your right, you should be able to see two Taipan multi-role helicopters. The Taipans are carrying a Special Forces control, and they are being brought in to provide real-time reconnaissance of this airfield prior to the landing of an increased number of Australian Defence Force soldiers. The Tigers that you see out in front of you now will provide protection to those landing soldiers and those aircraft by ensuring there's no... Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're now at the wrong end of a pair of Tigers firing rockets and cannon, and things are about to get noisy. The landing zone is now clear of enemy influence, and the Taipans can land and disembark the Special Forces team. During the landing, you will see the Tigers protect both the disembarking troops and the Taipans while they are vulnerable on the ground. The Taipan aircraft is capable of operating from land or naval vessels to deliver troops and equipment by day and night in all but the very worst weather conditions. In reality, this type of insertion will be conducted by night with the aircraft piloting using a combination of infrared vision, night vision goggles, weather radar, and the aircraft's automatic flight control system. They will get in and out as stealthily as possible to avoid compromising the position of the patrol.
The Tigers remaining airborne to make sure that no one sneaks up on the guys on the ground.
The Tigers and Taipans will very shortly depart and let the Special Forces Patrol get into position and do their work, but they will remain close in case they require it.
Cloud has been established overhead.
The Wedgetail have given this information about and the Seahawk Romeo is equipped with a highly sophisticated combat system. It's designed to employ the Hellfire air-to-surface anti-submarine torpedo.
The Wedgetail in constant communication with the Romeo out to the right. It's receiving
the dip. It will soon lower its acoustic sonar array, and the sensor operator in the back of the aircraft, Chief Petty Officer Steve Rissman, will actively ping and passively listen for the faint signs of the hostile submarine.
That submarine's in Corio Bay somewhere. We've just got to identify where it is. Locate it, identify it, and then we can take it out.
right, and the crew have now located the hostile submarine using that advanced sonar array hanging from the aircraft. They've even been able to classify the exact type of submarine being tracked, and they're passing this information back to the wedge tail.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you look to your right, you will see the Boeing P-8A Poseidon, followed by the Lockheed AB-3C Orion. These aircraft represent the Royal Australian Air Force's primary maritime patrol, intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft, and are based at RAF Edinburgh in South Australia. The aircraft will overfly the enemy submarines area and drop sonar buoys in the water to accurately search for and position the sub prior to repositioning and conduct their strike. As the aircraft overfly, you will see their bomb bay doors are open and electro-optical sensors are extended. Served the Royal Australian Air Force since 1978. The Orion
Have been instructed to vacate the area so that the submarine strike may be carried out by the P3 and the P8 aircraft. The dipping sonar array is retracted and pilot Lieutenant Jordan will buster out of the area to make way for the strike.
The P-8A Poseidon may look like a 737 airliner, however it's a highly modified airframe with advanced sensors and mission systems. The Poseidon is a fifth-generation maritime control aircraft bringing new capabilities to the Royal Australian Air Force. The Poseidon is fitted with advanced surface search radar, electro-optical TV and infrared camera, electronic warfare pod and 10 hardpoints to carry weapons. Weapons that can be employed in the anti-shipping and submarine role are the Mark 54 torpedo and AGM-84 harpoon. Advanced computing power allows the crew of Poseidon to process more than 4 times as much information compared to the Orion. As they position overhead, they'll be conducting their torpedo strike on the submarine's position. The Poseidon carries a crew of 9 to 11, comprising 2 to 3 pilots, 2 tactical air combat officers and sensor operators. 12 Poseidon aircraft will be delivered by 2021. The open architecture design of the Poseidon systems mean that future capabilities an enemy Hawk in trail. They're going to show a mock dogfight against the Hawk 127. Hunter 2, the wingman on the far left-hand side, will conduct a defensive brake turn towards the crown, pulling 7.5 G. Hunter 1 will pull to the vertical to position overhead the fight and prosecute against the Hawk 127. Before rolling in behind and switching to guns. With Renner neutralised, Hunter heading to the KC-30 air-to-air refuelling tanker to await further tasking. That demonstration shows you how small a dogfight can be and the superiority of fighter mutual support against the enemy.
We took out the submarine over Corio Bay. We've subdued the air threat, the Hawk 127. Now, we'll try and occupy Avalon to take Avalon back from the hostile forces.
Stop really quickly. Those engines go straight into reverse. travel. And they're all coming off now while the pilots are backing the aircraft back into position. As soon as it stops, you'll see the loadmaster come out and you're going to see the Army Protected Mobility Vehicles exit the aircraft.
Up now, you'll see the KC-30 and the F-18s behind each wingtip. The aircraft is sitting only 20 metres behind the KC-30 and are being the tail. As the aircraft manoeuvres, the Hornets will continue to apply formation cues off the KC-30, stay in position and remain flat.
Don't take your eyes off it, because as soon as they clean up that landing gear, bring the flaps up, retract the slats, they're going to convert to a tactical steep departure.
It seems like the hostile forces on Avalon have started to push back. We'll see what we can do about those guys.
The C-17's getting out of here.
The Royal Australian Air Force operates a fleet of 5 KC-30A tanker aircraft, with a further 2 to be delivered in the next 18 months. The KC-30A is based off the A330 tanker. Apologies, the A3...
Hunter, this is Bill, and I have troops in contact and require your assistance.
Hunter, roger. Established overhead. Go ahead, target description.
This is
West of the landing zone. Eyes on the target area. Hunter.
Reconnaissance has been conducted by the Tigers. Now it's the classic Hornets' turn to bloody that nose once again.
Hunter, visual friendlies, tally target. In hot from the south.
Villain, you are clear hot. Friendly forces are now advancing. Ladies and gentlemen, the Tigers... Hunter, this is Villain. All enemy destroyed. Thanks for your help.
Hunter, good luck on the ground.
The Tiger aircraft, in conjunction with the Hornets of 2OCU, have mopped up the enemy on the ground.
Crusader, this is India 3-1. Request immediate evacuation of a priority 1 casualty at the landing zone.
India 3-1, this is Crusader, roger. Inbound 2 minutes out for casualty pickup. Confirm landing zone status.
This is India 3-1. Landing zone is ice. No enemy present.
Crusader copy. 60 seconds out. Crusader, vision with the LZ.
Lima 3-1, roger. Ladies and gentlemen, casualty evacuation is a critical element of combat operations, and helicopters are used to get wounded soldiers from the combat zone to immediate medical care within the golden hour. The golden hour is the time within which a soldier with a traumatic injury, if attended to by medical personnel, has a much higher likelihood of survival. A number of aircraft will always be allocated to casualty evacuation during combat operations to both improve the survival prospects of wounded soldiers and to ensure the remaining soldiers are not impeded from completing their mission by having to protect and care for a casualty. The Taipan helicopter is ideal for casualty evacuation as it is fast, can operate in poor weather on the darkest of nights, and is sealed and climate controlled, thus enabling casualty stabilisation en route to the hospital. You can see the Tigers coming in to keep a watchful eye as the casualty is loaded. When a helicopter is on the ground in a landing zone, it makes a lot of noise, and loading the casualty becomes a priority. The Tigers will ensure that ground troops and the Taipans are protected during this vulnerable time.
Trojan.
probe flown by Paul out to the centre has 400. It's been heavily modified. The other two aircraft, flown by Ben and Glenn, have got 250 horsepower and 200 horsepower respectively. Usually the red one goes faster, but in this case, the red one has 200 horsepower. So he's working quite hard to fly it and maintain position. Through the formation passes, he has to be really aware that his wingmen have less power than he does. The aircraft on the right reduces power as they roll towards us. The aircraft on the outside has the firewall to maintain the position. Now coming in, the double flip. Start a tail chase.
That's easy.
Climb into the vertical between those two circuits. Go ailerons into the vertical. You'll call his forward speed. Just as he does that, he'll turn on the smoke. Throw in reverse. Down the vertical. minutes. Bring it in to land last.
From stage right, you'll see the showers coming in now for a wheelbarrow pass to begin the display. Everyone, if you look closely, you can spot the loadmasters waving out the parachute door. As the aircraft turns away from us, you should be able to see inside the empty cabin compartment with the loadmasters waving back at you. Be sure to wave back, kids, otherwise if they get upset, we don't get any pies on the way home.
Well,